like the...
Okay, well, go for it.
Oh, we're recording. Hello, everybody. Karen here. From Quantum Healing with Tena and Karen. And I'm here with my lovely co-host, Tena Dodds. Yeah, so we're just getting together because it's been a while. Has it? Well, together, yeah, it's been a while. Together. Yeah, we were just having a little discussion about little teeny tiny things that we've got about our lives that are, I guess, would be posed as a problem or that we feel guilt around. I would say that we feel that, there's that part of us that we feel like we shouldn't be doing, but we do. But based on, I guess, the judgment or the way it is around in, let's say, the collective, or what we've noticed in our own lives, or how we've been reacted towards in this certain regard, etc. So, for example, we were talking about sleeping. Like, I love to sleep. Tina loves to fucking sleep. She had chronic fatigue, though, and mine is just like, I like to dissociate and leave. But growing up, I used to sleep all the time. And my mother was the same way. She loves to sleep too. So I think that's why they used to leave me alone growing up. Let me sleep. Let me do what I need to do. I would hibernate. One time, I slept for 28 hours. Like,
oh, wow.
Yeah. I woke up the next day. the next day. But yeah, they never really took that as a flag, like, oh, we should get her checked. Maybe she has like leukemia or something. Like, no, or a blood disorder. No. But when I would do my blood work, it would always be like my hemoglobin would be a little low. Okay, I wasn't anemic or anything like that, only in pregnancy. But I love to sleep. Partially, because I was, for, I guess, highly sensitive people, yeah, we, not knowing that you're highly sensitive or that you're an empath, that how much of the world that you take on energetically, yeah, requires, your body needs some rest. So not having the tools or that, awareness of who you are as a person is one. Two, yeah, I would dissociate a lot. So, I hated being alive. So that was the next best thing. By staying alive, by not killing myself and hurting my family, I would go to sleep. So I love sleeping. It was another way for me to create and for me to leave without having to leave. So yeah, like I was saying, I slept a lot growing up, and my parents never gave me grief for that. They let me be. And then when I started my relationship with my then boyfriend, ex-husband, they're Italian. Don't know if that's a thing, but they, I remember when I would sleep over, I would sleep in to, let's say, noon. And sometimes I would sleep early too, because I was still in the game, in the routine game, where I would have school or I would work, and then I would sleep, let's say 9, and then I would sleep till noon. No problem. So yeah, I remember having like a little bit of comments from my father-in-law, like, we sleep so much, or like, you should wake up early. And I would feel like I needed to, that guilt around it, that I need to wake up, that I have to, like, I would sometimes put an alarm and try to stay awake. That was difficult. So yeah, there's some kind of like feeling around it, that now that I notice that even when I'm alone in my home and I sleep into whatever, I feel guilty. If someone calls me and they're like, oh, you're sleeping, and it's like late, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever, around that window, 11 to 2 is a window where I feel guilty for getting caught. I get caught. Is what it feels like. Fuck,
yeah.
or I see my phone ringing and I'm like, hello. hello. And I answer and I'm like, hello. And they're like, were you sleeping? I'm like, fuck. Which has happened. Um, yeah, so there's that window there. And I don't know if that is just because people are so caught in that. Well, yeah, they are. They're caught in that how you're supposed to be in life, that, you're an adult. You got to you got to be an early bird. You got to be able to wake up at 8 o'clock, no problem. 8 o'clock just sounds so goddamn early. Like, I wake up at 7 when I have the kids, and that's fucking early for me, but I understand they got to be somewhere. So, I mean, like, okay, we have time works for certain things, but when you don't have a schedule anymore, why do I have to be in a schedule, somebody else's schedule? So yeah, I feel guilty about that. It's just like how I feel guilty about, like, oh, you shouldn't be eating a snack, or you shouldn't be making dinner at midnight, Karen. Like, where I'm eating with the raccoons. It's like, yeah, I don't know. There's that. Yeah, there's just so much pressure that you put on yourself for feeling guilty for things, and it's like, and I always have your voice in my head, where you're just like, oh, you could do whatever you want. You're an adult, and I keep telling myself that you could do whatever the hell you want. You're an adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like we get so stuck in the conditioning of this world and all the things you're supposed to do, right?
Right. And also, again, like, we do still have to interact and coexist in other people's worlds. So yeah, when we go stay at other people's homes, it's like, fuck, I feel bad that we're gonna sleep in. I feel like I can't sleep in other people's worlds,
Right.
because for us it's like, fuck, I don't have no problem getting up at 2. Usually. And yeah, the guilty part of that is that, like, also, like, when I went to meet up with one of my friends, she's in her 50s, and her kids are like in their 20s now, like they're adults. And we went to go visit her, and my kids were telling her, they're like, yeah, mom wakes up sometimes like really late, like sometimes at 2, and I have to take care of my sister, and I have to give her breakfast sometimes because mom's sleeping. And I'm like, I go, is there a little resentment there? And she was really nice enough to be like, mom's tired. Mom works, late nights, sometimes when she puts you to sleep, she works, or she has to do some crazy work sometimes. So it might not fit your routine, but yeah, she's tired. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. And she's like, don't worry. She's like, because when I had my kids and they were those age, like, they would wake up early, because as kids do, they wake up at like the crack of dawn. And she was like, I would put on cartoons and give them a bag of Doritos so I could get more sleep. And I was like, well, that's reassuring. I'm glad. I go, but she's also on the same kind of like journey too, like letting go of the matrix, or trying her best to let go of the matrix. So is it us that are like that? Also an empath. It's the same thing, where
Yeah.
we're connected in ways or whatever. But
I
yeah, like,
never,
I'm wondering if people are like that too. They must be.
I don't even remember like getting up early as a child. Like I I always loved to sleep. And I remember, yeah, like people making me feel guilty about it. Like you said, especially when you go and like stay at somebody else's house. I mean, in my early 20s, we used to go out to like the club till like 2 or 3 in the morning.
And then you'd eat. Yeah, we have to eat. You always have to eat after clubbing.
Yeah. And sometimes, be up like really
To
late.
6,
Yeah.
6, 7
And
o'clock in the
then,
morning.
but then like my friends would be up at like 9, 10 o'clock, maybe even earlier. And they're like, what are you doing sleeping so late? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like,
Oh God, no, I couldn't. I would be out of
And it's
commission.
funny because it was my Italian friend.
Yeah, see, there's a trend here, I think.
Um, but yeah, I feel, yeah, my parents never really made me feel guilty for sleeping. But yeah, I
No.
mean, the world just feels so heavy.
It is.
It feels
It
so
is.
heavy. Like
Yeah.
my
I
body
didn't.
my body like literally wants to sleep all the time.
Yeah, I get it. Like I was accounting for like, yeah, wanting to escape, but because the world is so goddamn heavy, like I didn't want to be here. So yeah, I would leave. It's
Yeah,
I would just feel exhausted and I didn't understand it. I just always took it again. What I took as the excuse was I go, well, I get it from my mom. Mom loves to sleep all the time. My mom has bad blood, like
right,
me.
right. But what we're learning now is that there's so much heaviness, not only from other people, their thoughts, but like literally from the inorganic overlay over this matrix and
Hmm.
all of the manipulations and frequencies that are being blasted at us, you know?
Yeah.
The body is constantly absorbing all of this frequency. You know,
Yeah.
I was telling you about that book I was reading called The Invisible Rainbow.
Hmm.
It's kind of a little bit of a difficult read. It's not an easy read, but it's really packed full of amazing information.
Hmm.
Um, and it's about the early experiments with electricity, like when they first discovered electricity and they were doing all these experiments, the scientists, and they were getting really sick from being around this just electricity.
Oh yeah,
Not
yeah,
we're not
absolutely.
talking Wi-Fi and things like that, just regular electricity. They were even like running it through people's bodies and stuff to like treat certain things. They were like doing all of these kinds of experiments, but even just the scientists that were performing the experiments, like Marconi,
Hmm.
he he set up the first radio towers on this island. I forget the name of the island. I think it's up in Greenland or something. It's up north somewhere. And it was broadcast across to, Europe.
Hmm.
Well, there was a queen that also lived on that island and she ended up dying. He died like super early. His wife died super early. His baby died like I think either in womb or just not long after from exposure to these waves. Um, and people don't realize the effect that these things have on us because we can't see them. We know they're there because the stuff works, right? You plug a TV into the wall, it works. You use your Wi-Fi all the time. We're talking right now using Wi-Fi. You don't realize the effects that that's having on the body. So for
Right.
sensitive people like us, I mean, we're just being bombarded all of the time
Right.
by
Yeah.
all of these things. The other interesting part of that is this goes into a lot of detail, but in general, I'll just speak in general. Um, what this book is kind of getting to is that the every pandemic that we've ever had, including the Spanish flu, including COVID, uh, is has been in direct correlation with the introduction of new EMF on the planet.
Mm.
And also, not only that, but it also correlates with um, when the sun, uh, I guess, is more active. I guess
Okay.
I forget the specific wording and stuff, but basically the sun is more active. So as we know, like right now, there's more light coming into the planet. Like we know that.
Hmm.
That the Schumann resonance is all over the place, spiking and all this stuff. Our magnetosphere is getting thinner. So the light is actually coming in even stronger because we don't have that barrier anymore, or it's there, but it's thinner. So we're absorbing more of the light onto the earth. Like that's a fact. That's actually happening. So, when we think about sunlight, we don't often correlate it with like radiation, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is the sun, um, we're absorbing more radiation from the sun, but we're also introducing all of this new technology,
Right.
like 5G, for
Right.
example. And who knows what they're shooting down from all of these 40,000 satellites that they put up in the stratosphere,
Right.
you know? So it's really not a surprise that sensitive people are feeling the effects of this.
Yeah.
There's a lot more going on in the world than we can see. And then you add into that, the inorganic
People. Oh.
people, true, but people that are being controlled by this inorganic matrix system, who are being mind controlled, who are really being affected on a consciousness level by these frequencies and have no idea what's happening to them. I mean, there are,
Right.
like mind viruses, and then you add in entities that are at play and AI. I mean, we just saw tonight, we had another um, client that had a shot, and we saw that he was being invaded by nanobots, etheric nanobots, and it just happened to correlate with the same side that he was injected on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's no wonder that we want to sleep all the time.
Yeah, it's actually quite interesting because I started sleeping a lot more when when we first got internet in our home. It wasn't Wi-Fi, but it was like a dial-up internet, but still. And that room that the internet was on was directly onto my wall in my bedroom. Actually, now that we're discussing this puzzle, like literally my face was like my bed was on the wall. So I feel like
Yeah. Yeah. Huge effects. And if you talk to like electromagnetically sensitive people, I mean, there are people that like can barely function in the world as it is right now. I mean, they literally have to like tinfoil their whole entire house
yeah,
because it's that bad. And I feel like you and I are probably two of those people, maybe not as affected as much as these people, but definitely being affected by it. You know.
yeah, I slept really good when I started to turn off like or pull the plug on the Wi-Fi at night.
Hmm.
Clearer. It felt clearer in my own bedroom. Like I know, yeah, it's just something that people should try.
Yeah. There's a lot of like EMF mitigating technology that's coming out now. There's a lot of different companies that are selling this, things that you can put on your devices, like your laptop and your phone and things like that. This scalar technology that they use to so it kind of turns the negative frequencies into positive. It kind of like transmutes them into more positive energy.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just look in this book real quick. I've only gotten through like the first quarter of it, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, but I just think it's really interesting too. And because these things seem to happen all at the same time. So like in 1918, it was the introduction of radio waves for the first time across the whole entire planet. And the people that got sick first in the pandemic were the military, people in the military,
Mm-hmm.
because this technology was placed on like their Navy ships first.
Okay.
So they would be out in the middle of the ocean and the whole ship would come down with the flu, right? And how
Right.
are they getting the flu out in the middle of the ocean if it's a contagious bug,
Right.
right? So this is the point that this book is trying to make. Like these illnesses are triggered. They trigger, so the frequencies are triggering our body um, to get ill, you know, and not only that, so then when you add a shot on top of it, like they did in 1918 with the vaccines that they introduced, that's what really caused the death, because you have an already weakened system from the frequencies that it's being bombarded with, the radio waves, the electricity, um, and then you add on top of that a shot of poison, and that's why people started dying.
Right.
You know, it had nothing to do with a contagious pathogen.
Right.
They've actually have never been able to prove that pathogen causes the flu.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's never been proven. Or that it can cause any illness at all. And some of the facts in this book are just like really astonishing. Like, I don't know how to find. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, so I took a nap today. Or I was actually thinking about like even taking a nap as a mother, and like when I was still married and feeling guilty for asking if I could take a nap.
Yeah. Oh, and that's the other thing too. It's about the bees. So it was called the Isle of Wight, this island that Marconi set up these radio stations on, and immediately the bees started dying.
Mm-hmm.
They were just completely wiped out. Um, yeah. So that's really interesting too. And it was the bees that gave the first warning. I mean, that's like exactly what's happening now. Everybody's wondering why the bees are disappearing. And this is why. It's because of more and more you know, EMF being introduced to the planet, and it's just they can't function. It's like it's throwing their whole system off, their navigation system. And um yeah, I just think it's like really interesting how like all of the belief systems and paradigms that we have around illness and disease are really being challenged,
Yes.
you know, for the first time in at least our lifetime, or you know, probably since the germ theory came into fruition.
It's like, you let us know out there, people. Do you like to take naps? Do you feel guilty for sleeping?
Yeah.
Do you eat at funny hours? Yeah.
I mean, it's not surprising that people are having such a difficult time at functioning in the world. It's actually surprising to me that so many seem to function quite well with all of the stuff that is being thrown at us, you know.
I think those are the people who wear their masks real tight. The tighter the mask, the more they're functional or disconnected. Like, who knows? It is. Well, I mean, it's all relative, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like the more you know, the harder it becomes. It's almost kind of like that saying ignorance is bliss.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But these people that wear the tight masks and all that usually drive themselves to getting chronic illness after anyway, for pushing themselves too far, for not listening to their body, or yeah, their perfectionism. I've seen a lot of people like that too.
Yeah, because you can only wear the mask for so long before something has to start breaking down, you know. And usually
Yeah.
it's the body.
Yeah.
And I know that from experience.
That too. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. What else?
What else? I don't
I
know.
don't
I,
know.
I just think it's really interesting, like the connection between electricity and the pandemics. Like that's a really big connection. Oh, so let me tell you about also. So I was reading this book. It's called Child of the Universe by J.F.L. Sullivan, I think it is. Let me see. J.F.L. Sullivan. J.L.F. Sullivan. And it's a really short read. It's a really fast and easy read. And it's about her past life regressions to Lemuria and Atlantis. Um, and the themes in that book are so similar to what we're experiencing now. Like we knew that already. Like we can feel that. Like what's happening now, like this kind of this fork in the road that we're at where it's like, are you going to choose the organic path where you reconnect with your soul and your spirit and come back to the land and all of those good things? Or are you going to take the path of AI and transhumanism and technology and science? It's like right brain versus left brain. It's like we're right there at that
Right.
bifurcation.
You see that how much they push for technology and innovation and that way. That's where we're going. So yeah, they want to disconnect it. Inorganic all the way.
Hmm. Right. And so that path is feeding the inorganic matrix system. That's what's keeping it alive, is like that this rush towards science and technology is keeping that matrix system alive. Um, while meanwhile, like we're trying to get back to the original matrix, because the matrix isn't a bad thing. It's just a system. But the one where most people are living in now is inverted and full of manipulations. So we're trying to get back to the original Earth matrix, which was the matrix that Lemuria was founded in, the fifth dimensional Earth matrix,
Mm-hmm.
um, where everything was natural and there wasn't these huge advances in science and technology, but it was like people lived off the land, they were connected with their
Mm-hmm.
spirits, they used crystals for technology. um, yeah, and it was just a really beautiful harmonious society. And so in the book she visits this life where she's the daughter of the queen of Lemuria, and she's next in line to take the throne. And it kind of explains her life a little bit, what life like was like there.
Mm-hmm.
And it was matriarchal. There was no king, there was only a queen, and the queen, um, she was impregnated but would never actually had like physical sex with another male. There was no males or fathers involved, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how good that is. I mean, it kind of seems a little bit extreme, but at least in the actual like palace, that's how they did it there. I don't know about the like regular people,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah. So she was next in line to take the throne, and she was being like taught all of like how to connect. It was like they were teaching her meditation, like kind of how to get into a trance state and connect with the ancestors. And their ancestors were star beings, right? Because the earth was actually seeded by star beings. This is how we got here. We're all a conglomeration of all of these different beings from other planets, because as they ran out of resources, they were searching for another planet to potentially colonize. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so there were many different colonies of star beings on Earth in the early days. And one of those colonies was Lemuria, or what they called a moon, the colony of a moon. I think that's what AMUN. And um, so in this place, they lived really harmoniously, and um, she was learning to connect. What her grandmother was telling her was that they were connecting with they were talking to the dead through using these red crystals. But really, what she found out later was they were communicating with their original star families, um, the 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 original star people that like colonized, that started that colony. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so what happened was they had visitors one day, and these visitors showed up in these like ships that were kind of like spheric kind of like bubbles that they traveled in, and they had been watching what was happening on the island for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and they came to the palace, and they were men. There were like 5 men with them, and they were all like really like toxic masculine feeling.
Mm-hmm.
They wore black masks like over their nose and mouth. um, and they came to the island because they said they were searching for a cure for a virus that had overtaken their colony, and their colony was called Atlantis. Um, and so this on the island, or the continent of Lemuria, they had perfect health. I mean, they did have like injuries and things like that, but they didn't get like sick, like illnesses and things like that. They had this protection, this immunity protection around them from like coast to coast, to where they couldn't get sick. So when these men came searching for a cure for the virus that was overtaking Atlantis, they wanted the secret to why are you so healthy, you know? And the mother and grandmother, the queen, the grandmother, kind of let them in and were being nicer to them than they probably should have been, because there was this prophecy that they would be rejoined one day with their other half. There was like this prophecy of like the two sisters. It's not really that important, but there was this prophecy there that led them to believe that, oh, here they are, like this must be them, when it really wasn't at all. And
Mm-hmm.
there was like a manipulation put into that prophecy that almost like it made them believe that. And these beings from Atlantis knew of that prophecy, so they kind of already had an idea that that's what they would think, so they fed into that. um well, what ended up happening was they took their red, because they were looking for the red crystals really, so they took the red crystals and like hid them in a cave. Um and when the queen like stood up to them and said like, no, we're not giving you our crystals, they had like some kind of technology where they just like decapitated her with a laser beam and like exploded her body like in the middle of their throne room.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, they were really ruthless. And so they left, and they left everybody there to like deal with that. And so the girl had to become the next queen. Like she had to have her coronation ceremony like the day after her mom was blown up. Um, so they went ahead and did that. And soon after she was coronated, uh, one of the villagers came to alarm like the guards to say something's happening. And she was called down to the beach where the water had disappeared. It had like drawn all the way out. It was completely gone, and like all the fish were like flopping around in the water, and the fishermen were standing by like, what's happening. They've never seen anything like this before. And so then what's coming next. Um, and then all of a sudden they see this huge wall of water coming for the island. And they just start running. And so the woman that was coronated as queen, she had a daughter, and the daughter was in the palace with the nanny. So she was running to try to get to her. And as she was like scaling up the wall, and the wave was like getting close, one of those ships that these beings were in came and picked her up in the ship. And well, it was like a sphere, and they held her up over top of like the whole thing. So she had to like watch the destruction of the civilization. It was awful. Like it was just awful. Um, so pretty much everybody was wiped out except for a few survivors that were like clung to like the top, like the cliffs of a mountain or something. Um, and they took her to Atlantis, and they held her captive for the rest of her life. So she was like probably 20 at this time. They held her captive for 60 years, and they experimented on her. So the ruler of Atlantis, his name was Osiris, and he was a tyrant. He was an absolute tyrant, and he kept her, and would he tortured her pretty much, trying to get the information that he wanted, and she just would never give it up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, as much as she wanted to die, every time she slipped into the other world, her grandmother was there like, no, you can't come yet, because she had to pass on the information to someone. They couldn't die with her.
That's
So
whack, man.
yeah.
Do you think that would be like, are you kidding me? No, we're fine. That sounds like a contract or something, like some weird entity contract.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, I don't know if I would have been strong enough to stay. Um,
Well, you did, honey.
but she did. She made it. Like she was imprisoned there until she started noticing changes happening. Like she started noticing the guards were changing, and different things. Like as she was in her cell. And what happened was Osiris had finally died. This was like 60 years later. Um, and somehow I forget the details of it, but somehow she got out. Like this judge, she had had a run-in with this judge early when she had tried to escape one time, and she had a run-in with this judge when he was a young boy, and they made eye contact, and like their souls knew each other. So he never forgot about that, and he always like wondered about her. So when he came into power as a judge, and Osiris had died and someone else had taken over, he went and like looked for her and petitioned on her behalf for her to be released into one of these high-rise buildings. So in Atlantis, it was all very like gray metal, like very techy, because it was all about science and technology, and their buildings were so tall that they like blocked out the sun, and it was very opposite from Lemuria. Like the whole civilization was just completely opposite of how they lived in Lemuria. And so he petitioned on her behalf to get her out, and to live in one of these like cylindrical metal gray buildings, like across from him so he could like keep an eye on her. And they became friends and they would talk and things like that. And as she was like getting older and not able to take care of herself as well anymore, um, they sent this young girl to help her like cook for her and stuff like that. And she, because she needed somebody to pass on the information to, she recognized that this girl would be able to hold it. So over the time they spent together, she was transferring the information to her, I guess, through telepathy and, teaching her how to go into trance and connect. Um, so after she transferred all the information to this young girl, she then went to the new leader of Atlantis and said, I'm ready to tell you now. And but she said, I need to hold one of the red crystals because they had one. They had one of the red crystals. And so as she held the red crystal, it caused some kind of activation where it caused an explosion to where she exploded herself pretty much, and then explosions started going off over the whole continent of Atlantis, and it pretty much went down in fire. But before she did that, she told the young girl, you need to run and you need to go as far north as you can go into the mountains. Like when you hit snow, like
What
that's,
about that judge?
mm,
She did him dirty.
yeah,
He died too?
died too.
Fuck.
Yeah.
After he saved her?
Hmm.
Damn.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, oh, so what I forgot to say was that the tidal wave that came over Lemuria, it wasn't a natural tidal wave. It was induced by the Atlantean technology. They had, and it wasn't just one tidal wave; it was three. So they had it
Whoa.
coming from all directions. Yeah, and so they had some kind of technology where they could like trigger the tectonic plates under the ocean,
Right.
and that's how they induced it.
Crazy.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I thought it was really interesting the parallels in that story with oh wait, that's not the rest. Wait, so there was a vaccine.
Oh, yeah.
So Osiris, the scientists, these really smart scientists developed this shot for the virus, and they started noticing after the first generation who had the shot started having babies, they were part animal,
Mm-hmm.
like cat, monkey, snake, all these different kind of hybrid human animal beings were being born.
Mm-hmm.
And mind
We'll
you,
see.
these sessions were done like before 2020, so she couldn't have known any of that was going to happen, here. So these hybrid human monkey beings were being born, and they had special abilities, but Osiris thought it was like an abomination, so he had taken them all and sent them to this island. And so everybody thought they were like living on this island, and the judge went to visit the island one day, and he saw that there were no people there. It was just a pile of ash with all of their like burnt bodies. It was just like the remains were all ash, which is crazy
Right.
and so sad. But yeah, I just thought it was interesting, like the parallels, like them showing up with black masks on and the virus and the shot and yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, and this is a repeat. So we'll see.
Yeah, it feels like a repeat, right? Like all the same players are here. Everyone's here. Like, yeah, all the dark beings are here again, and they're pushing this agenda of, you know, transhumanism. And there's us who are trying to take the organic path. And who knows what's going to happen next?
Right. Who knows? Yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, maybe JFK and Princess Diana is going to come back to life and save you.
Well, that's the thing, right? It's like humans are conditioned to look for a savior. They're still, and that's also part of the manipulation of the matrix manipulation is the savior program. It's a program that is running through people to look outside of ourselves for someone to save us. And whether that's through the med beds or JFK or Princess Diana or a politician or aliens or Jesus or whatever it is, it's not going to happen.
Right.
Like
That's pretty much what it's called to. This is why we're in the same position. It's because it's the same shit. Who's going to come and save us? Because we just sit there and wait for something to happen. Like with these people promising that something's going to happen at this date or by this date. And then the date passes and it's like, now what? Oh no, but it's coming. They're doing things somewhere else. It's all happening. Who the fuck told you that? That you're going to believe it? Because I'm sorry, I haven't seen any proof.
what gets me is like there's so much like purposeful misinformation out there, like the stuff that about like, oh, the lockdowns are for your own good because they're saving the children.
Okay, yeah.
Like, get out of here. Get out.
Right.
That is
Right.
that's a manipulation to play on the empathy of humans
Well,
to
it's the
make you
same
think.
thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. For like, you have to wear a mask because you don't want to kill Nancy's granny. Fuck you. Fuck you and Nancy's granny.
Right. Yeah, and that this person's dead and this person's in Guantanamo Bay and
I
I'm like,
know.
they're all still
I
here. Like,
Yeah, this is my thing too about saying like, okay, all these people are dead. I go, okay, so why are the clones still playing out their fucking dirty agenda?
right.
Why? How does that work?
Right.
What the fuck is that justification? That's a bullshit justification. Well, they're dead. Okay, cool. If they're dead. But like, I don't understand why that's all that shit's still happening. Why are they still in the media then playing out the same thing? Well, it has to play out because everyone's got to see the darkness. I go, and then what? Okay, we're all seeing the darkness. People aren't fucking believing it. I go, no one's moving or budging.
Nobody cares.
Yeah,
That's
no one
it.
gives a shit. Well, yeah, that's it.
Because it disturbs the reality. Everyone's just looking to go back to normal.
Right. Going back to normal. And it's like, well, we'll see, like how much they're going to learn about whatever. Okay, well, I'll see it when it happens. A lot of people are going to kill themselves. Okay, I'll see it when it happens. That information is not going to come out. There's no fucking way. And if it does, I'd be very surprised if it would come out anytime soon or in this. Oh God.
Well, it's already out. That's the thing. Like, it's already out. Like,
Well, out where it should, where it should be, like in the mainstream.
it's never going to
Out.
be in the mainstream.
Well,
The
exactly.
mainstream is bought, paid for, and controlled. It's never going to be in the mainstream.
Right. Yeah, and also pulling at your heartstrings about saying like, oh, these people are really not dead. I'm sorry, I'm Canadian. What the fuck do I give a shit that Princess Diana? Like, what's she gonna do for me? And what is JFK Jr. gonna do for me? I'm Canadian.
Right. Are they going to be like the new king and queen? You
Yeah, like
want
what?
more rulers? Like we need more rulers.
You know, like what are they gonna do for me? Nothing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's nice. It's again pulling at your heartstrings, pulling at your emotions. Yeah, if they are alive, great. I go, but that's not gonna help anything in the state of the world.
These people are master manipulators. They've been
Yeah,
planning this forever.
yeah, and
They've
getting people
literally
to
been planning
split.
forever. They've thought of everything.
Yes.
They've thought of everything. So in order to get the people that would normally stand up to sit back and wait, they planted all this misinformation. Trust the plan. Don't worry, they're saving the children, blah blah
Yeah, where
blah.
we go one, we go all. Yeah, with the rest of the fucking people who are asleep.
Yeah. And it's a really, people, you want to believe that because it gives you hope that something's actually being done, right? And there is something to Q. I think Q woke a lot of people up. But again, the people that are awake that would actually fight back and do something and stand up for themselves, they were just sitting around waiting. They're online seeing when JFK is going to come back
I know, my God. And it's like,
the new
okay.
king, like that whole new king thing. What was his name? Gregory Hallett, that whole
Yeah,
thing.
Joseph Gregory Hallett. Yeah, he was crap from the
Yeah,
beginning.
but he played right in. Like that was just like waiting to happen, like he people just ate that up. And I'm like,
Yeah.
are we not in this situation right now for this exact reason?
Oh, yeah, I know. There is just so much around it. So many distractions everywhere that you can't just pinpoint the one thing. It's everything is to take you away from looking at yourself, looking at or standing up with other people. There are like little, groups that are standing up and doing things, but not enough to make the revolution because the rest of them are like, oh, no, we have to wait. We got to trust the plan. Like Donald Trump's coming back. They're counting all the votes in the river.
Yeah, just wait for the med beds. And Nasara, that's another savior. Nasara, Jasara.
Right. Another
Can you imagine,
distraction.
like, the state of the world as it is right now? Can you imagine if you gave people that much money? Like, do you know what happens to people when they win the lottery? They ruin their lives because they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, they go back to bankrupt.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, like, all the people that have lost all their families, like through this virus or whatever it is, dead now. They're gone. And then they roll out the med beds. Like, oh, you knew that they had this technology? Are you fucking kidding me? Like we are not in our right mind right now to receive such technology, such information, such drastic changes. You think people can't even handle the truth of what's going on? Like saying, don't worry, like if the truth is going to come out. They can't even handle any of that. Nothing. They couldn't even tell us the truth about anything. We have to find out and dig up the truth ourselves.
Yeah.
And if you were to even get that truth and be able to like feel into it and believe it, yeah, you're already branded a conspiracy theorist. Do you think you want to go out more and like talk about other things?
Yeah.
No one is ready to receive this technology and this revolution, like this huge one.
Well, that's because the level of consciousness isn't there yet. Like we
Right.
don't, as
We're
a
starting.
collective, we don't have the level of consciousness to be able to handle those kinds of things.
Right. And imagine giving people who don't need these things. I'm saying they don't need them. They're thriving still, like the little the Africans and stuff, like how they thrive in their own environment. And to give them this new stuff, there has to be a transition period for them to receive it, to know what to do with it, because they don't know what the fuck to do with that. We don't even know what the fuck to do with that, and we're in a first world country.
Right. Yeah.
We're not there yet. It
Yeah.
sounds all nice. It sounds like a beautiful dream. This is the world that we want to create by not having to have to worry anymore about anything that we've been enslaved upon. But we are not ready at all as a collective consciousness to receive. No way. No one hasn't even started to begin like doing their own trauma work.
Right.
There's so much trauma and things that are masking all of these dark programs inside of us that are still enslaving us in this inverted matrix. So you think that we can re-pancake like the whole thing to come back to our like organic matrix? No. We don't even know how not to be lied to.
Right. We don't know how to be free because
No.
we've only known enslavement for so long.
Right. Yeah, and people don't even know that they're not free.
Right.
They don't even know. They think they're free by getting like for example here people are like, oh well, you know, you got to look at the bright side, you know, at least they moved the curfew to 9:30 instead of 8 o'clock. That's their freedom. That extra hour and a half, they're fine with that because it's a little more.
Hmm. Yeah, you know, and it's easier. It's easier to be told what to do. You don't have
Right.
to think for yourself. You don't need to use any like
Right.
critical thinking skills. You just
Yeah.
follow the rules and everything's fine, right?
Yeah,
That's
they
how
made
people
us so
got
lazy. Yeah, exactly. Easy to manipulate. They play at your heartstrings. They emotionally tell you like, you know, this is what it is and you're like, okay.
right.
And then you still sit on your ass and you wait for someone to come and get you.
Yeah,
That's it. This is the world we live in.
right.
And go tattle on your neighbor. Like, no.
Yeah. It's a whole, you know, victim savior paradigm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, this kind of left off with a bang at the end. Sorry about that. That was intense. Whoa. Ooh.
But this is really serious. Like this, you know, New Earth, I don't feel like New Earth is like set in
Oh
stone.
my God. Yeah, New Earth. How do we start with the New Earth? Sorry to break it to you. It's like the way I understood when I first heard New Earth, it was as if it was something outside of our world now. It felt like this beautiful earth, like the earth, but not the corrupted version. I guess the organic matrix, right? Or the organic world only, all members only. And I'm like, well, how are we going to get there if there's still like murderers and shit? They're like, oh, well, this is where I would raise questions because it's like you're able to kind of put yourself in the position of the world that we live in now. And how the fuck are we going to get there soon in a couple of days?
Right.
Yeah. And they're like, well, um, those of the consciousness or that are conscious will go there. And I go, what about the rest of them? I go, so I'm just going to be able to accept that my family's just going to drop dead and die?
Right.
I'm going to leave them behind and be like, bye, peace, see ya, you didn't make it. Like, you didn't make the cut. And you're supposed to be okay with that? Like,
I
how does that work? Or like, oh well, the aliens are gonna come. I go, you know how many people are gonna fucking die of heart attacks when they see all the fucking spaceships coming and come and get us? And how the fuck am I gonna be okay? Like, I've never seen an alien in my life, okay? At least not in this waking state. Come here and they're like, yeah, come Karen, let's go. And you'd be like, yeah, okay, sure. I'd love that. Absolutely fucking not. I'm not getting in no fucking spaceship. Are you crazy? Like, think about it. Put yourself in that position where they're like, yeah, no, I would totally get on that spaceship. Are you kidding me? No, you wouldn't. You would be fucking scared. You would be so
yeah.
fucking scared.
Yeah.
Fuck off with that. Like, I would totally do it. Okay. Let's see how many. I do believe that there would be some that would, but not like, come on, no.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Too
you don't
fucking
realize like
scared.
the body response you're gonna
No shit. I'm thinking about one being right here, right now, and I'm like, oh, hell no. No, no,
have.
no. No. Yeah, so somewhere outside of here.
Yeah, I mean, there's all this talk of like the splitting and the new earth over here, and we're just gonna like get sucked there somehow, and everybody else is gonna stay here.
And no, it's really like this is the world we live in right now. We got to deal with that.
Right, like
So
come
yeah.
back to reality, like ground it in, right? Like let's ground
Yeah.
down.
Yeah, let's ground down and like sit in this. Okay, we have to, okay. It's kind of
No
like
escaping it, because that's part of like the escapism. Like you don't need to deal with any of this. You're just gonna go to 5 year.
yeah, like your traumas are gonna stay in the old world, and you're
Yeah.
gonna come back and be like this rising, like I don't know what.
You're floating in your 5D
Yeah,
love bubble and
yeah. You arrive with flowers in your hair, and you're just like, oh, we're all like floating up in the air.
no, like ascension is hard work. Like it's
Ascension, you have
not
to do fucking work.
it's
Exactly. I go, do you think we got to black belt just by like doing nothing?
just trusting the plan.
Trusting the plan, waiting for our little Q drops. I go, where the fuck is Q? Like, how long do we have to wait?
Yeah.
Like, what are we waiting for to put a puzzle together? Tina and I, like, throughout this whole thing, what we've learned in our whole process is that it always comes back to us. Always. Like, yes, along the way, we get caught into things. We kind of like learn it, understand it, take what resonates, leave the rest, and then we outgrow it somehow, naturally outgrow it, and we leave it and move
Right.
on to the next.
And
And
to
it's like,
me, that is a sharpening of discernment.
mhm,
So like weeding, as we're weeding through all of these different misinformations and manipulations of this world, as we're weeding through all that, it's like we're sharpening our discernment, right?
yes, yes,
Coming back
and
to sovereignty.
yeah,
Because sovereignty is all about us.
it is. That is what it is in the end. It's all about you, not anything outside of you, because you're not sovereign if there's something attached to you or that you're looking outside yourself to like, okay, please help me. Like in the end, it always comes back to that. Yeah, like you have to be very wary of the kind of energies you're working with in this inverted matrix world. Like this is something that like we've only, well, only that we've had to like really question recently. Like what is organic or what is real, to the point where like we had to like reevaluate the guides that we've been working with, you know? And again, they won't get offended if they are real and true. They'll be like, yeah, chop me up and see.
Yeah. And
And
that's because there's so much false light. You
oh
know,
God,
a
yes.
lot of beings in the astral realm are false light. And you can see that so clearly now through all of these different high profile channelers and gurus and,
Right.
all of these famous people that people follow, like, well, I don't want to name names, but you're starting to see now like the agendas that they're pushing in the name of spirit or whoever, whatever being they're channeling, because we don't really know who they're channeling. They could
Yeah.
be channeling an entity, a demon from the fourth dimension and
Right.
posing as a light being. They do it all the time.
Yeah. And people
And if
believe
they're
it
push,
because they say it's light. So
and if
they're like, oh
they're
yeah, okay.
if they are pushing the shot agenda, they're not of the light. They are not of the light. I will say that with certainty.
You're not. But yeah, I get like the whole thing. Like, yeah, I want to feel good. You know, knowing all this information, it's like I want to feel good about it. But the thing is that, you know, with all the work that we've been doing, I can only be present and create my own joy right now and heal myself and find the joys that do still exist in this world as we know it. And that's it. That's literally it. So creating my own new earth in my own world now, and not get so bogged down or holding on tight to a truth that may never come out, and but just stand into my own truth. It only comes back to you, nothing
That's
outside of you.
right. And that's our responsibility. Our responsibility is to be authentic, to
That's
speak
it.
our own truths, to share our own truths. That's our
Yeah.
responsibility. Our responsibility is not to the outside world, but it is to ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is Debbie Downer stuff, but this is what we've evolved into. This is the world that it is now. It's inverted. Like you have to deal with that inversion.
Right.
And how can we get out of it? Not by sitting on our ass and trusting a plan that we don't even know exists. What is that plan? If you can tell me. Waiting for the military to come and roll their wheels? Like anything that comes in, it's just like, oh, they're the coup's happening. I'm like, okay, the coup. Okay, the coup. Sure.
Yeah, there's so many distractions. And now, like, everybody in the truth community is like fighting amongst themselves. I mean,
Yeah, they've split that up too. There's that agenda working out quite fine and right on time. How about that?
divide and conquer.
For everything, they're dividing and conquer for every little thing. So it's just like they're really splitting hairs now and splitting the hairs of the hairs of the hairs just to like separate us.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, that's just it. Like
That's just it.
that's just it. I mean, like we have run through from the beginning, like when we got all that information, again, this is what's important is that like when we got that information about the fall cabal, for example, really interesting stuff and just like wow, things that we haven't even known to open up so many doors to things. But then it's like, okay, we get on that because it sparks our curiosity, it sparks our never-ending rabbit hole of this, again, the inversion of how we got here. But then eventually it's like, are you going to sit on your ass or are you going to move? Are you just going to take that as that one truth, or are you going to do something else? Like there's just so much information. And yeah, like Tina was saying, yeah, it really requires us to have like more and more leveling up in the discernment. Because if you have to see right through it. You have to feel right through it. What feels real to you? What feels more realistic as a collective? Knowing the world that we live in right now, do you honestly see them rolling out Nasara and Jasara, for example? Honestly. Maybe you're ready for it because you've been able to prepare yourself for it. But if I think about my Uncle Robert, no, he's not ready for it. He's not. Like these people, the people around us who are like collecting pennies and stuff, and and that you give them financial freedom, you think you're gonna want to know what to do with that? No, this is a world of debt. This is a world of imprisonment. This is a world of like, yeah, they wouldn't even know how. And it's like, please, like, who the hell's gonna go out there? Who is the person, like when they say like, oh no, there's gonna be rules around it that people have to abide to? Who's that person that is gonna tell them that there are rules around this? Who's that one person? The cabal? Lady Gaga? This is it, they're like, there's gonna be rules around it that you have to abide to.
Yeah.
Says who?
Well, there are changes happening. Um, small changes that you see here and there.
Yeah, little miracles. I think that's how it's going to be. Like
Right.
little, there's almost 8 billion people here now. Okay. So little things. Like if people's debt are being wiped, fucking amazing and great. I think we should start there, if
Right.
anything, before, and then try to teach people how to not go back to debt that we wiped out in the first place. No,
Right.
because if people, we live in a material world. So they're going to want to be a material girl. Like, they're going to
Well,
want to
yeah,
spend.
because materialism has completely taken over. Like, this is the whole point. We've
That's
never
the other
been
agenda.
more materialistic than we are now. And yeah, it is part of the agenda to distract us, to just have us consuming and buying things. Like, I was thinking today how I used to do that. I just used to buy things because the world was just screaming at me that I needed it.
Right. And, and then you rack up all this debt, you pay off a little bit of debt, you're like, fuck, I have more window to buy more.
Yeah, and why?
That's how you get easily sucked back in.
And then you lose it all and you're left with nothing. You're like, oh, this feels peaceful. Like,
Right.
no, it sucks to lose it all. But after a while, you realize, like, you don't need that stuff. It's just weight to carry around, And
Yeah.
it feels so much better to simplify your life and just
Yeah,
live.
the energy around it. You're carrying energy.
Yeah.
And then you want to take a nap. And then you feel guilty for taking the nap. There, 360. Well, thank you for coming to our channel. Please
Please like
comment.
and subscribe.
Yeah, comment down below, like, subscribe. Tell us if you're mad at us. But we are not going to give anything less than, at least, I'm not saying this is the absolute truth, but at least a question your La La Land.
It's our truth.
It's
And
our
that's what's
truth.
important.
And that's like, I've been questioning that because so far, according to everything that I've gathered, nothing has come true yet by so and so date. By this date, a big thing's going to happen. Okay, where is it? Like, how long have we been waiting? How long? Like, the new president's in office for a couple months now. Yeah, a couple months now. Nothing's happening. What else were we supposed to be waiting for? Someone,
No,
yeah,
but it's only getting worse. Like,
right. Because we're all sitting on our ass
yeah.
waiting for them to save the children. Didn't someone say that they stopped the operation?
hmm Yeah, Corey Good was saying that there was some stuff going on, but that was stopped a while ago.
But who
And the
knows?
reptilians are still living underground. I mean,
Yeah, who the fuck knows? Like, there's so much information. Like, who do you trust? Who do you not trust? Like, are you going to trust it because it makes you feel good? It makes you feel
right,
better about life? So you're going to be like, I want to believe that.
right. Which is what most people do. And
Yeah,
I
it's
understand that because it
bypassing.
does make you feel good. And in this day and age, it's like you can kind of like pick and choose what you want to believe.
Right.
Unless your discernment is like super sharp as you're sifting through all of these things. But a lot of spiritual people get trapped in the hopium. It makes them
Yeah.
feel good to believe that the children are being saved and all of these changes are happening and Clinton's going to go to jail or she's dead or whatever. Like it makes you feel good. But is it really true?
Yeah.
Sometimes
Yeah.
truth is really hard to hold. And
Right.
it's not fluffy, it's not light.
No. And it's not like, oh, well, you create the reality that you make. It's like, well,
Right.
this is the fucking reality we made, people.
It's a
Like,
collective reality. We do create
yes.
our own realities. We each have our own reality that we live in. And then we live in a collective reality. And this is the reality we're talking about, the collective reality.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So, I mean, to the very least, if you can conquer your own reality, then we can make room for change. But until the whole collective or people take responsibility for themselves individually and the 8 billion on this planet that are, we are not going to see any change. Sorry.
Yeah. And people need to take responsibility for themselves. I think that's what it comes down to is responsibility and
Yeah.
um,
And understanding that
healing,
we're all heavily traumatized.
healing that trauma and healing the victimhood. This is where we really have to begin like healing as a society.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you for coming if you made it this far, thank you for coming to the Easter eggs at the end. I'd like to save those for the end. I'm sure we'll do a video where we'll start that with the beginning. I think people need to hear that again. Not even to accept that as the reality, but to at least question the reality.
Yeah.
That there could be, perhaps, this could be what's happening too.
We always have to question our belief
Yes.
systems.
Hmm.
Always have to question our belief systems, because once we get too comfortable in a certain belief, then
There's no room for expansion.
right.
There's no room for change or potentials. Like, okay, so what if everything gets thrown through, pulls you from under the rug? How are you gonna deal with that? You're still gonna have your little hope, even though the truth is right there in your face, that
Right.
it's not what it seems.
Right. And you can't hold it because you just go into cognitive dissonance and denial because you were holding on to something so strongly. I feel like it's important for us not to hold on to things in the outside world too tightly,
No, but just
because
to
when it
hold that
gets
they're all
ripped,
potentials.
yeah, there are potentials. So it's just like watching, observing, not really falling into that stream where it's like that's your like hardcore belief, but being able to like hold everything and just like watch, right? And kind of like sitting back and using your discernment and
Mhm.
just watching without holding on to anything too tightly, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, really, because we don't really know what's true anymore. There is so
Right.
much misinformation out there.
Right. And like while all those election things were happening, where all the light people were? They were on fucking Telegram. That's all they were doing. They're on Telegram while they were doing all the other fucking shit outside of that. Think about that. I was on fucking Telegram too. I'm guilty. Yeah.
Yeah.
And now look at it. It's fucking mid-May. Nothing's happened.
Yeah.
Anywho, we love you. We send you our love. And if you love to nap, amazing.
Comment down below.
Yeah, just let us know you're here, whether it's something, if you agree or not. It's all good. Like, we're open. We're not scared of opposing thoughts.
No, I used to be.
Yeah, me too. It would still give me a body reaction, but at the same time, it's like, no, that's just coming from a place where I can't, um, of what's it called, rejection, or having to deal with another, like, confrontation or something. But it's fine. That's just showing me where I need to work. So bring it.
Okay. Any
Well,
final
thank you.
thoughts?
No, I think I already said my whoa. So yeah, and it's been saying that a lot to me lately. My angry self comes out, or I don't know if it's
Oh,
angry, but just
that's
very passionate self.
yeah, I think that that's another good point too about anger is that, there's this belief in the spiritual community too that anger is unacceptable,
Oh
right?
yeah, no. I
It's
think that's why.
unacceptable.
Well, I feel guilty after you say whoa. Like after I go on my like soliloquy, like, and
You
then I'm
said
like,
it this time. I didn't say it. You said it.
what?
Whoa.
I was saying it to myself. I was like overcompensating for you to say it to me. I was like, eh. No, I know. I could see it. I feel it in myself when I start to become very, I like to say passionate, or I get really in it. But
I don't think it's anger, and I don't think anger is not a bad thing.
no,
Anger has been demonized, but we need anger, especially righteous anger. It's a propellant. It drives us forward. It makes change. Otherwise, we just sit here like floppy fish. It's true.
whoa. Yeah, no, for real.
For
I hear ya. I
real.
hear ya. No, for real.
Like all these spiritual people just floating around in their 5D bubbles. Like that's what I'm talking about. Because they're not allowed to feel anything. You're not allowed to feel anything. You're not allowed to be angry. You just have
Yeah,
to
you're not
raise
allowed
your
to feel
vibration.
anything. Yeah. Raise your vibration. Meanwhile, you're still, but that's the thing. That's the whole illusion. You think you're raising your vibration, but your vibration is not changing if you still have all of those dirty wounds under there that you're not looking at. It's all an illusion. You think you're vibing high, but you're not. Whoa.
Yeah, you're just covering it up. So you're constantly going through ups and downs because you're not getting to the root cause of the trauma and the wounds that you hold. And we hold so much within us, you know? And the only way to truly raise your vibration is to one, clear your entities and all of the inorganic devices,
Contracts and
implants
yeah,
that we have in our system.
technology. Yeah.
And two, heal your trauma. That's the only way to truly raise your vibration. Otherwise, you're holding that trauma, these low vibrations in your body. So
Yeah,
you're
they're
not
not going
really
anywhere.
right. It's not going anywhere. You're just pretending, or using affirmations and um
Yeah, or because some one way or another, someone's gonna mirror you, and you're gonna feel it. So it's not going anywhere.
right. But a lot of people are so suppressed that it's like even it's hard for them to even access that trigger or that anger or because it's so pressed down because they've been taught that they're not allowed to feel that way as a spiritual person. Somebody asked a question in a group the other day um, about being unspiritual or something, and like I was just like reading through the answers and I'm like, what is spiritual? What does that mean to be a spiritual person? What does that mean? What does that mean to you?
Me? Okay, well, spiritual. It's true. I'm spiritual. What does that mean? I think I think being spiritual is being able to embody yourself with as much authenticity and honesty in all aspects of your entire existence and taking responsibility for yourself. So it's like you're taking your 3D self and your higher aspects and marrying them together and coexisting and being that, not just holding theory about one, it's being it. That's spiritual to me.
Mm, yeah, I love that.
Oh, thank
And
you. I
I
channeled
really,
that by
I love that.
myself. I
And
channeled
I,
that. Yeah,
and
go
I
ahead.
like how you talk about like not just holding the theory because there are a lot of people that do. They just hold the theory. They know all the things to say, but they don't apply it to their life.
Right.
Stay
Yeah,
away from healers that don't apply it to their life.
right. Or who are constantly seeking healers to heal them. Those people, like we've done some clearings on people like that, they are riddled in entities. That's another
Truth,
topic. Oh God, we
yeah.
have like a lot to go on.
I know
Whoa.
we can never think about what to talk about. And it's just
and
like,
then we're like saying like and subscribe, and we're like, oh wait, what about this?
yeah.
Oh.
So yeah, be careful, be discerning of the healers that you work with. First of all, number one, because they could be working with false light beings who then are going to hook into you and drain your energy. Number two, they haven't done their own work on themselves um, and they're not applying that theory to their own lives. So you have to be really careful about the healers that you're working with because we have seen people that have worked with a lot of healers and they are just riddled with entities. It's really
Just say that.
yeah. I'm just reiterating.
Yeah, no, it's good. Double question mark that one.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
question mark.
And I lost
Exclamation
my
mark.
thought, my original thought of where I was going with that.
Stay
Oh,
tuned. Oh, good.
so I agree with you and what being spiritual is. To me, it's about being the most authentic version of myself. To me, and that does meaning merging the lower self with the higher self. So embodying the higher self, but also allowing my humanness, you know? I
Mm-hmm.
think to be human is to be spiritual. I think every human being is a spiritual
Right.
being.
And they run away from being humans. The spiritual community runs away from being a human
And
because
the regular
they want to go elsewhere.
and the regular humans run away from being spiritual.
Right. And it's like, yeah, there's such a spiritual ego there. Like, I don't want to be like them sheeple. Like, okay, sorry, but you are fucking human. It's like you came from that. You cannot fucking pretend. Not everybody. There's a really tiny, teeny, tiny portion of people that were born, that are our age, let's say, that were born into being free spiritual people that do it like, being human and balancing the two acts. Very small.
Hmm.
I know, we know one, I think.
Do we know one?
Yeah, we do.
Who?
Leo.
Oh, Leo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's one, that the one golden child. But I'm sure there are others, but I don't know any other ones in the whole community. So it's like, I don't know. There's just so much around it, like so much analysis and how we're so split off and so disconnected. But again, it's like you're creating like, yeah, you're on this pedestal because like, well, I'm spiritual and I'm all love and light and you're so materialistic and this and that, but you're judging them just as much as they're judging you. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm judging you for judging that. See, it's all like the same, but it's just like, can you recognize that?
Well, again, too, we're taught too, and I got caught up in this really, we're taught that judgment is bad,
Hmm.
that judgment is bad. And so when I used to believe judgment is bad, I used to just accept every single person that sent me a friend request because I thought, oh, I don't want to judge them, right? They
I
seem
don't
like
want to judge that military dad who just is widowed.
yeah. Yeah, and so not using your actual judgment, which is basically your discernment, gets you caught up in some really sticky situations. So judgment isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think we have that for the reason of discerning what we are aligned with, what is good for us, and things like that. But yeah, of course, it can swing totally the other way and just judging someone for the sake of judging them. But I think always it needs to come with that sense of unconditional love, just for humanity in general, but also
Yeah,
knowing your boundaries, like with people. And I don't need to have you, I can love you from afar, but I don't need to have you in my life.
correct. Exactly. But that's the thing. It's just like you brand yourself as spiritual and then you're not even aware of yourself and how you are perceiving those that are beneath you.
Mm. Yeah. And then there's like all the spiritual, like gurus and leaders and stuff like that. I think a good healer will always point you back to yourself, you know?
Well, yeah, that's what it's all about. That's the whole thing. You do the work. And consistency, transparency, like pointing you to be authentic.
Right.
There's a lot of stuff. Ugh. It's not manipulation or making you feel bad about yourself or
Hmm.
abusing you.
Yeah. There's a lot of abusive gurus out there. That's a huge issue.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think the most important thing we can do right now is sharpening discernment is really important.
Yeah, just because you're a guru doesn't mean it's like those buzzwords that they're like, oh, well, that's a light being, that's an archangel. So I must believe it. They
Right.
must know more than me. Again, you're putting that on people pedestal stuff. And it's like, yeah, I like that guru a lot, but I don't know, I get weird vibes from him, but he's a guru, so he knows more than me. And you're like,
Yeah.
no. It's like
Same
trust
thing.
yourself, trust your feelings.
Yeah. And the same thing with light beings or ninth dimensional whatevers. Just
Yeah, I
because
could
it's
put a
a
whole number, a big number next to it.
just because it's a ninth dimensional Arcturian doesn't mean you have to align with their message or believe what they're saying. Because I've seen some of those ninth dimensional Arcturians saying some really shitty things that are not true.
Right.
Seriously. And a lot, that's what I'm saying. You have to be careful of the information you are consuming now because, if you're consuming someone's information that is channeling through these false light beings, these demons, um, they could hook into you too. It's that
Mhm.
easy for them.
That's what they want, to have a following, of a fancy following, and then it's just like, bam, you're taken.
Right. Because they slowly start draining your energy.
Mhm.
They're siphoning your energy.
Yeah, it makes you addicted because it's like you want the truth, you want the to feel good, you want the
The
light.
hope. You want the
Yeah,
hope. And
yep.
that's what most of them are feeding, just that they give you like 90% truth, and they're feeding you that hope and that light. I mean, there's this one channeler that's been talking about the Pleiadians saving the earth for like 5 years now. I mean,
Yeah, it's always like they're coming, I promise. Okay, I bet.
anyone that is not pointing you back to yourself, just be wary of.
Hmm.
Anyone, including light beings.
Yeah, at the end of the day, just come back to yourself. Like, you can't trust anyone. This is what we've learned. You cannot trust anyone but yourself.
Mhm.
You can't. You know how much deception's in the world? Like, you can't.
Even like your guides. That's
Oh God. Okay, that's another video. We
another
can't.
video.
I don't even know who's here anymore.
If you're still here, comment down below.
Yeah, and let us know that you're here. Hi, JJ.
I'm Maureen.
Hi, JJ, Marine,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Who else? They're like our OGs.
Yeah, it's nice to have them around. But yeah, if we didn't mention you, please to let us know you're here. We need to know if you're here. We don't like stalkers. Just kidding. Fangirls and fanboys alike. No, I mean, it's just, we just want to know you're here. And if not, if you don't have a Gmail account, I get it. But, if you do, you have no excuse.
But you can like our video.
Yeah,
That
you
really
can.
helps us a lot when you guys like our videos.
And even if you don't like it, it still adds to the algorithm. Thank you.
Okay, I guess that's
Hey,
it for now.
perspective.
Yep. We'll take your dislikes too.
I don't care.
All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us for all that time. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and
Right.
we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.